There's a very simple framework you can use when answering the "why did you leave your last job" interview question, and it's particularly powerful when explaining a layoff. And that framework is facts to future. In a nutshell, you want to spend 20% of your answer addressing the question head on with the facts, then pivot and spend the remaining 80% of your time focusing on the role you're applying for. The future. In this video, we'll go over one specific tip for each part of the framework, and I'll also share a sample answer to "why did you leave your last job" so you can see how everything ties together. Let's get started. Diving to an example that shows why you want to start with the facts. Imagine your answer begins with, "Yeah, so the reason I was let go didn't really make much sense. I was one of the high performers, and to prove this, let me give you an example of this project I led." The interviewer will see you're letting emotions cloud your judgment, you're bad-mouthing your previous employer, which is a huge red flag, and by going to the details at what happened in your old job, you're losing the opportunity to sell yourself on this new one. Instead, imagine if you started off with something like this. Sure, as you may have heard, the entire tech sector was affected by layoffs this time around. Leadership decided to deprioritize the product area I was part of, and high performers across a range of functions, from finance to business development, were all impacted. Not gonna lie, I was pretty hurt when I first found out I was promoted from an employee to just a regular customer at my company, but in the 2 weeks that followed, I took some time, reflected on the skills I learned, and I actually listed out all the tasks I enjoyed doing in my previous role. Before we get ahead of ourselves, the part I highlighted in blue represents the pivot from facts to future. And as you can see, the facts part is short on purpose, so you can spend more time on why you're a great fit for this new role. In this pivot, I first transitioned away from answering why I left my previous job, then I lay the foundation for why I'm applying for this new role by talking about the skills I have and the tasks I enjoy doing. By the way, stay until the end for a Google Docs template you can use to structure your own answer using this facts to future framework. Funnily enough, the future portion is very simple because you can just use your answer to the "why do you want to work here" interview question. I have a whole separate video on that, but here are 3 pro tips I can share right now. First, show how the skills you gained in your previous role are immediately transferable to the new job, because all hiring managers want a candidate who can start doing the job well as soon as possible. Second, regardless of your intention, make it clear that applying to this job was a calculated decision and not just a desperate attempt to get any job. You can communicate this by talking about the research you've done and explaining why this new role represents a logical next step for you. Third, give a subtle hint you are a strong performer by offering to connect the interviewer with your previous manager. Putting all this together, here's how a full sample answer might look like. "So Jeff, could you perhaps talk a little bit about why you left your previous company?" Sure, as you may have heard, the entire tech sector was affected by layoffs this time around. Leadership decided to deprioritize the product area I was part of, and high performers across a range of functions, from finance to business development, were all impacted. Not gonna lie, I was pretty hurt when I first found out I was promoted from an employee to just a regular customer at my company, but in the 2 weeks that followed, I took some time, reflected on the skills I learned, and I actually listed out all the tasks I enjoyed doing in my previous role. And I realized product marketing is an area I'm extremely passionate about and want to continue working in. I enjoy working with product teams, breaking down the technical aspects of B2B products and coming up with an easy to understand, consumer-friendly narrative. Which brings me to this conversation right now. Based on some desktop research and speaking with a few of your team members, I understand that Apple is expanding aggressively in the search ads space. Not only is my B2B marketing experience immediately applicable here, hopefully resulting in a quicker ramp up, my experience in user acquisition campaigns is also very relevant since Apple is relatively new when it comes to acquiring advertisers. And to put your mind at ease and to give you an idea of how I performed in my last role, I'm more than happy to connect you with my previous manager. I've added a Google Doc in the description so you can reference it when coming up with your own answer to the "why did you leave your last job" interview question using the facts to future framework. If you're interviewing right now, check out my common interview questions and answers playlist. See you on the next video. In the meantime, have a great one.